Hi, I'm Adam, and I'd like to talk to you about object-oriented programming. So, with object-oriented programming, specifically with Java or C Sharp, or I don't know about C, but you have classes that are based off of things in real life, like a chair or a table or whatever. And if you're going to do object-oriented programming, you have to know where to begin. So, say for instance, you have a process that's running. You have to be able to figure out what method runs everything. What's the top level class, or what's the superclass that runs everything? So instead of, like, say if you need to catch an exception somewhere, instead of trying to catch it down below in the code, you need to figure out, okay, is this caught above? Because usually it is. Usually you have like one method in one class that runs a whole program. What I mean by this is, like, you'll have the start of a method, right? And you'll have, let's say it's doing a test case or something. Well, it'll start out with stuff for the modules, go through every module, and go through all the test cases. And then in every test case, it goes through all the steps and executes each step, right? So upon doing that, then it has other methods that goes to another class that handles data or something like that. So if you get like an array out of bounds exception or something like that, instead of going inside, um, like, the code and like where the array is getting initialized or an XML is getting parsed, you need to go up the tree per se and see that, okay, my main method in this one class is what's running everything. So, for example, I had to go look and see. I saw all these connections that weren't closing in one class, specific class data handler. But then I looked in driver lib and I found out that with that main method, the shutdown method closes all the connections by saying connection.close. When it says connection.close, it closes every connection that you're making to the database. So, like, all the statements, the prepared statements, whatever, those all get closed when you say connection.close. So you need to make sure that you don't close a connection, you know, that doesn't need to be closed. I mean, a prepared statement that doesn't need to be closed, because that could give you errors. If something's closing, if they're all closing at the same time, that's the perfect time to close it, is at the end when everything is shut down. Again, when you're thinking of object-oriented programming, you have to take things very slow and think methodically, or else you're going to get yourself in trouble. You got to follow the top level program and go all the way up. You got to set, when you're debugging, you got to set breakpoints at every point and see, okay, this is what this is doing, and this is what that is doing at this specific time. I learned this over the last 5 months. This is something I hadn't learned in school. You gotta look at other people's code that hasn't been commented, or that's been commented in Hindi, because a lot of programmers are of Indian descent, and you gotta determine what it's doing. And the only way to do that is by debugging the code, setting breakpoints, and going through and seeing what each thing is doing. Setting expressions in Eclipse. Now, I'm pretty sure in C Sharp it's very similar to Visual Studio. JavaScript has object-oriented kind of stuff, but the objects are different in JavaScript. They're more kind of like similar to a multi-dimensional array in Java. Very kind of similar data structure there, but if you want to go to a true object-oriented design, Java and C Sharp are still doing it, and a lot of things are still developed in Java and C Sharp. With Spring, MVC, Spring Boot, because it's the only way to organize your data, very efficiently. With Spring, Boot or MVC, you don't have to do prepared statements to your database. You can do everything through Pojo classes and then your Hibernate.xml. Make calls to the database. Now, pretty sure that if you want to get involved in some kind of IT business, you have to learn SQL. SQL is used everywhere as well as Unix. You might not need to know Java or C Sharp or whatever, but if you're going to get into the IT world, every job is going to require you to know a little bit of SQL, just to know what's going on with the database, to know how to make a call to the database is very keen. And then, I would study the different APIs to make calls to the database, either, whether for Java, whether it be Hibernate, or, kind of structure. I would study like the different things that you can get back from the database. Like, for example, if you get a web services call, you can get an XML or a JSON object. You should go study that. And how to parse the XML, how to go about going through the XML format and seeing like, okay, this ID is coming from this XML. How would I get that ID out of that XML? What if you're doing something on a website and you need to get a certain field? Well, you can go into a locator tool on Firefox or Chrome and actually copy the that field. Like, you can copy that XPath in the developer tools, and you can copy it and paste and be like, okay, this is what the XPath is doing. Here's how it's being implemented. This is what we need to grab. We can grab it by the ID. That's the best way to grab a field name. So if you're doing some kind of Selenium or some kind of testing your website, you need to be able to grab you need to be able to set things in different XPaths. Again, if you need any help, let me know. Comment below.